Super Bowl.
Welcome to Patriots Touchback Podcast.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome along to another edition here of the Patriots Touchback Podcast. It is me, your host, Karl. I am back after a week off IR. I am joined, as always, by Luke and Nick. Good evening, gentlemen. How are we doing, and how have you enjoyed your weekend?
Doing all right. Weekend was okay.
Can't complain now. We're winning record, 5-4, first time in a while.
First time this season, to be precise. Yeah, my weekend was good. It was even better watching Alabama lose. That's the best thing about it. Anyhow, right, let's crack into this show, shall we? Make sure you hit a like on the video. You are subscribing to our channel while you're at it, and make sure you are following us on Spotify and all on our social media platforms on Facebook and Twitter as well. Right, let's crack into the game. The New England Patriots 26, Indianapolis Colts 3. A dominating display from the defensive side of the ball. Offense, little to be desired, shall we say. Let's start with the defensive side of the ball because we've just got... There's one person I'm going to start with, and that's Matt Judon. The guy has been the best free agent signing we have had for God knows how many years. He is just wrecking... He's just wrecking quarterbacks left, right, and center now. He leads the league in sacks. Josh Uche as well. He had 3 sacks on the day as well. New England's defense just absolutely bossed Indianapolis, which shouldn't be too hard considering no Jonathan Taylor running back. They benched Matt Ryan and put in a rookie in Sam Ehlinger. Anybody who has a brain would have realized that, oh yeah, the Patriots be in the Colts because Bill Belichick feasts on rookie quarterbacks. And that was another case in point. A pick 6 as well, pretty much iced the game. The defense was just simply unstoppable. Luke, what is would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was defense and special teams. I think the offense left a lot to be desired, as you were saying. There was nothing really I feel you could take away from the game. I think when you have a game like that where you're so, I suppose, even though the score wasn't really that wide. There wasn't that much of a gap between the two teams until kind of later on. But the Colts weren't going to score. So you'd have kind of hoped maybe they'd have kind of tried to get something going, try and switch it up a bit. I think they did try in the second half, felt like they got some things going. But when I say some things going, I mean relative to where they were in the first half, which is still, at the end of the game, they're still not a functional NFL offense. But put that to one side. Great performance by the defense, albeit against a line that couldn't block. I would, with the rumors going around about the offensive line in particular being very upset that Matt Ryan was benched, you saw an offensive line that really didn't want to block. I mean, I saw Quentin Nelson get sent for a loop by Dietrich Wise in a one-on-one. He just sidestepped him and was gone past him. Like, Quentin Nelson shouldn't be, how they talk about Quentin Nelson as being nearly a surefire Hall of Famer up until the start of this year. You can't, a guy like that shouldn't be performing like that. And they have Braden Smith, and they also have Ryan Kelly on the line. There is no way that line should have been that bad. But they've been playing that bad, and the Patriots took advantage of a bad offense.
They pretty much did, yeah. Nick, what's your take on it?
Well, I was just going to say, based on what Luke said, I mean, Matt Ryan's benching wasn't even a coaching decision. That's an owner's decision. He doesn't want to pay the $17 million that Ryan's due next year. He just wants him gone. So, I mean,
Can't blame him, though, as well, at the same time, because
Ryan
was much better.
The Colts are in trouble. It's... whatever's gone wrong with, I know Frank Reich's lost his job, but whatever's gone wrong in the Colts in the last 12 months, it's just,
I'll probably go I would probably go further now. I'd probably say since Andrew Luck retired. Have they really had a surefire quarterback since Andrew Luck retired?
No.
So
no.
Philip Rivers maintained the status quo.
Yes,
that's
he did.
Effectively, what he was there to do. But it's just it seems to be that they were like fighting little fires within the organization, and it's just engulfed into one big show. But talking of the Patriots, you said about Uche having 3 sacks. The Patriots had 9 sacks in total, which was a new franchise record.
Yeah, and usually we're a sort of franchise that doesn't really sack the quarterback. We pressure them, but we don't really sack them. So this was quite that was an interesting thing to hear. Frankly,
I know you called out Judon for recognition. Jonathan Jones was another standout performer. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't go to the Pro Bowl. Well, I mean, I'd be very surprised if Judon, Jones, and Uche don't go to the Pro Bowl. But certainly Jones and Judon should be there out of merit, because they're blowing every team. I mean, the Patriots defense is number 1 in EPA. It's all well and good having a great defense, but it's the special teams and the defense that are carrying the offense at the moment.
Yep.
So
yeah.
I know we're 5-4. I know we're 5-4, and I know we're over 500. But we should be 7-2. As I realise, we're still the 8th best team in the division and whatever else, and you can pick silver linings and all that. But the Miami defeat and the Chicago defeat sit poorly with me. We should be 7-2.
The Miami one is week 1. That can go either way. We don't do well in Miami, so I had that down as a loss anyway. I think the Bears one was an anomaly. It had to be the day. It had to be the game that finally Justin Fields decided to turn up. And now that moral victory, a loss in overtime to the Green Bay Packers, is looking more and more disappointing by the week.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, without a doubt. And I think even if we look at the schedule going forward, right, there's a few teams that have, I feel, from the start of the season have gone up in my estimation. A few other teams that have gone quite a bit down. I think the Jets in 2 weeks' time is going to be a tough task. I still think we'll win because that's what we do against the Jets. We beat them at home. The Vikings, I like being realistic, right? Penciling that in as a loss away at the Vikings. Again, away at, and then we have the Bills.
They only just scraped past Washington. Their next two games before they play us at Thanksgiving is on the road to the Bills. They're going to lose that, and then they're on the road to the Eagles. They're going to lose that.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, like at the moment, they're a better team than us. That they are, there's no doubt about it. That offense is it's not. I don't even think it's firing on all cylinders yet, and they've added Hawkinson to it. You look at the Cardinals. I do think we'll handle the Cardinals now, even in their place. The Raiders, I think we'll handle them. Then we've got the Bengals, Dolphins, and Bills, and I think that's 3 losses there. I do, and so that would with theoretically with the Vikings, Bengals, Dolphins, and Bills twice, that's 5 more losses on the season. This is the hard part of the season. We've won the games that we should have won. We've done that. Now comes the hard part of the season. Admittedly, the Jets probably at the start of the season you would have said, right, the Jets are going to be probably improved, but not to this level. I still do think that we'll beat them. But after that, then I think you'll be struggling to get 3 or 4 more wins on the year.
We'll touch more. We're into our bye week now, so we may touch a little bit next week into what our next lot of scheduled will be. But we need to get this cleared up and out the way, shall we, guys? This offense is pants. It is poor. It is so poor. there's a little tweet I'm going to bring up here from Andrew Callahan, who does the Patriots press pass. Okay. I have a lot more to dig into, but Matt Patricia was rough there, says Indy. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. Of course we know he's rough.
Maybe he had a cold.
Colts run D ranked sixth by defense adjusted value over average. He called runs on 8 of Pat's initial 11 first down plays. 2 were successful. Indy ranked 30th versus a 12-man personnel by EPA. Pats used 12 personnel on just 13% of snaps pre-final drive. Colts ranked last versus 12 personnel by opponents' passer rating. He called 3 passes from 12 personnel all game, 3 for 3 for 14 yards. Players talked in the locker room about Shaq Leonard calling out screens of zone runs. O-line / injuries hamstrung the Patriots, but this was mostly controllable. So I'm just going to say it pure and simple. Why the fuck is Matt Patricia still play calling?
Because, go on, I'll let you go, Nick, because I've been talking non-stop so far. Go on, you go.
Well, I think it would be because...
It doesn't matter what you think, okay?
That's very true. That's very true. Ultimately, it matters what Bill thinks. Patricia was. I said it on Patriots Unfiltered last year or this year, whenever I said it. I believe that Patricia sat last year and he sat with Ernie, and he was supposed to be shadowing Ernie and learning off him and think. Well, did he pay attention? Because it just seems that he's out of his depth, But who else is there? Josh wanted to take Kaylee with him, who's our tight ends coach, I think. Wanted to take Kaylee with him to the Raiders. Bill said no because he had, high hopes and for Kaylee's future. Well, he can't do much worse, can he? I've been one saying that Patricia needs to be given a chance, and ultimately he does Bill's bidding, But there comes a point when, you've shown what you can do, and you're not good enough. I don't know, Ultimately, it doesn't. I know you say about it doesn't matter, but it doesn't really matter what any of us think when it comes to Bill. Bill has his favourites. Bill has his man, and until Bill wants to change it, nothing changes.
I'm sorry, but Matt Patricia is just absolutely shit. All right, he just is.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that it's for as hard as it is to watch. What if we can see it? Why can't Bill see it? Or does he see it and choose to ignore it?
Luke, what can you tell with this?
You're not going to like this, but anyway, I first of all, I don't want to say I am not pro Matt Patricia here at all. But and a big but. This is Bill Belichick's offense. It is. It's his team. It's his offense. He is just, when it comes down to the game situation, there's a full playbook there. Belichick's name and everything else is all over that. When it comes down to game plan situation, what they'll do is they'll condense the game plan down to about 30 to 40 play calls, and that's the ones that they'll go with for the game. He's part of that game plan situation. So if we're not identifying the right personnel and personnel groupings to go up against the weaknesses of the Colts, that is on Bill, that is on Matt Patricia as well, of course. But we can't sit here and go, everything that's good that's happening, that's Bill. Everything that's bad happening, that's Matt Patricia. No, it's Bill, and then Patricia as well. Like he's part of it, absolutely. I also think I just don't think the quarterback's very good. I think that like you and on top of that, I don't think his receivers are very good either. I think we've spent a lot of money on not great players. I think we've a bunch of number threes and maybe I don't want to say twos. I think 2.5s, 2 3/4. They're not really number twos in most teams. There are number ones. And I'll put Jacoby Myers to one side because I absolutely love Jacoby Myers. He's probably one of the best slot receivers in the NFL. But from an outside receiver, your X and your Z, you've got 3s and 4s there. So he doesn't also have much to throw to. I would put all of that together. The fact that it's and also I don't disagree with you. The play calling is probably bad. It is, but I would not lay that fully at the feet of Patricia. I would say, look, it's the combination of lack of talent to throw to, lack of a good quarterback. Not saying he can't be good. I'm just saying at this moment in time, Mac Jones isn't good, and I think if we had a better offensive coordinator, absolutely we would be better. But it is Bill and Patricia, not Patricia.
But if you have a lack of receiver quality and you have a lack of tight end quality, I mean, I remember when we signed Hunter and Smith, and we were all like, "Yeah, it's the Gronk and Hernandez again, all over 2 tight end sets." Hasn't worked out,
No.
All these things. Excuse me, the lack of wide receiver quality that lies at the door of GM Bill.
Yes,
not coach. And GM. If you separate GM Bill and Coach Bill, I don't get me wrong. I love Coach Bill, and he can. Sometimes he can do wrong, but for most of the time he does no wrong.
I agree with
but you. GM Bill is well below par.
Yeah,
he really is in over his head.
I completely agree with you. I was a fan of the Hunter Henry signing, and to be fair, at the time I think I was more kind of excited we were spending money at the time, but I thought it was a bit strange that we gave Henry the contract. Sorry, not Henry, Smith the contract we did. I wasn't a fan of the Aguilar signing. Again, we had nobody, so they were better than all of the players that we brought in were better than what we had. And without them, we would be a lot worse. I'm not saying they didn't, but, you're still signing average players and giving them big money deals like they got. And it was great that we had the money at the time, and these were the best players that were out there. It's not like we got Aguilar and we should have got DeAndre Hopkins. Those types of players weren't there to be gotten. They got, I don't want to say the best, but definitely a tight end position they got the best. But there wasn't much else, I feel like, at the time. But reinvest, maybe re-sign some of your own guys that you like. I don't know, maybe give Steph Gilmore the money he's looking for, who still looks like he's great. He still looked good.
I mean, we signed Kendrick Bourne because he wanted to leave San Francisco because he didn't fit the Shanahan system, which is fine, and that's all well and good. So you sign him and then say, you know what we're going to do? We're going to implement the Shanahan system. Well, guess what? You just signed somebody that doesn't like it.
Yeah, and not only that,
you just literally cucked yourself there, haven't you?
And not only that as well, we saw how good, he took a bit to get going last year when we weren't running the system. And by the end of the season, he was our best receiver, I think. I was going to put
outside of Myers, he was our best receiver.
And I always kind of want to say, whenever I'm talking about offense and receivers, he's our but guy, or our exception to the rule. Jacoby. We love him. But everybody else gets lumped into that, And he was doing really well. And great point, Nick. Absolutely great point. We go to Shannon's system, and suddenly he's not performing again. And he's a man.
It comes back to the point I made about GM Bill, but I made this point a couple of weeks ago, and I can't remember whether it was DJ or Karl or whoever, and I said about if we had drafted Jackson when we should have done, you could have then spent your Mac Jones pick on a wide receiver, or you could have picked, your the running back we ended up picking that went to LA.
Michelle.
Yeah, Sonny Michel. You could have picked a wide receiver with that pick. We have made mistakes in the draft. We have made mistakes
Huge
in free
mistakes.
agency, and this has all these mistakes have put us behind the 8 ball, and you can't just snap your fingers and fix it overnight. It takes seasons. It takes multiple drafts. It takes multiple free agency windows to fix one bad window or one bad draft. You're playing catch up for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah,
Coach Bill is doing an excellent job to keep the Patriots where they are.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
As a GM, he needs to take a step back. It's just there's too many times where we fluffed on it. I mean, I go back to when we took the Kill Harry. Lamar Jackson was sitting there at 32, sit behind Brady for a couple of years, wait for him to go, then bring Lamar Jackson in. But this is all a what if scenario. We could always say, "Oh, I'll say this now. We ended up picking Sonny Michel. We could have held on and maybe took Nick Chubb. Who do you reckon is the better running back right now?"
Yep,
Nick Chubb, no question. Receivers could have got Deebo Samuel, though he's more of a gadget guy. But you got AJ Brown, you got the monster that is DK Metcalf. It's painful for us as Patriots fans to keep reminiscing over this, but it's case. This is a what if. If you had Nick Chubb as your start, as your 3-down cowbell, if you had a DK Metcalf that was just imposing his will at every given time, if we could turn back the clock and iron every single mistake Belichick made as GM and pick that person, we could be in a better situation. But when we can't do that, we have to live by what we choose. And
that comes back to my point. You're in the situation that you're in, and Coach Bill is doing his very best. But it is going to take time to turn this ship around and get us going in the right direction. I genuinely think the draft last year when Matt Jones came in and Barmore came in, and I thought that was a step in the right direction. And then draft just gone. It seems to be we've started again.
Don't get me started on Cole Strange.
I mean, I'm not saying he's not a good pick. Was he a first round pick? Probably not.
No.
Would he have still been there? Would he have still been there for our second round pick? Probably not. But
you don't pick a guard in the first round. You don't.
Well,
unless it's Larry Allen.
Well, New England done that with Logan Mankins in 2005, and that panned out all right.
I mean, he was a 31st or 32nd pick, wasn't he?
They're still first rounder. Doesn't matter.
But he again would the Patriots have won the Super Bowls? Or he never won a Super Bowl as well, by the way. Would we have been as good on the line? Possibly not. Would it have counted in the wins and losses? Would we still have got to all those AFC Championship games? Yeah, we would.
The problem was though last season we had Shaq Mason at right guard. Michael Onwenu was playing in the left guard position. Once we traded Shaq Mason to the Bucks, we had to move Onwenu out, so we needed a left guard. Otherwise, David Andrews and Trent Brown were going to get absolutely sorry, let me phrase that. Andrews and Isaiah Wiggs, he was playing left tackle last season, they would have got absolutely manhandled, and Mac Jones would have ended up a blubbering mess. But
you pick up, I don't want to say Cole Strange, right? But you pick up a guard in the third round or fourth round. We got Joe Tooney in the third round. We got Shaq Mason in the third round. Even Trey Jackson if you cast your minds back to the same draft that we got Shaq Mason in, he started for most of his rookie year and a good bit of his second season, and then he got a bad injury and he had to retire. You know that you pick these guys up. David Andrews is an undrafted free agent. You know, so even when Cole Strange will say, right, he gets to the point where he's going to be given a next contract, he's going to command Quentin Nelson money because he's a first round pick that's played at a good level. If he plays at a good level, if he doesn't, he's a complete waste. You would say if he has the career that Isaiah Wynn's having, like of all the as bad as Wynn has played this year, when he played for the first 2 or 3 seasons, he wasn't benched at any point. He was okay at left tackle. I don't think he was ever downright terrible. He probably got beaten by Pro Bowl, defensive ends, which is what he's going to be because he's a rookie, fairly average rookie left tackle. But what are you going to do? Yeah, what are you going to do? Like it's a left guard. I just can't emphasize enough that you had so many holes in your team, and you literally could have picked any position, and you picked the one that you could easily almost plug in a 5th round pick. Like go on, sorry.
Go on, carry on. Sorry.
No, and I'll shut up now because I'm gonna. But how much worse was our line on how much worse would our line be on Sunday if we had I don't know, you pick any backup guard that we've had for the last few years and play him, Josh Klein, Jordan Devey, all these guys that we'd have had that we just plugged and played, and they were fine. They weren't good. They gave up pressures, but they weren't turnstiles exactly. We just benched our first round pick, very early on in the game, and he never came back. And I'll stop my Cole Strange rant.
It seemed. Well, I mean, I won't jump on that bandwagon. It seemed that Cole Strange's timing was off this on Sunday. I'm not saying that's why he was taken out, but it just seemed that and we're not talking like seconds here. We're talking like fractions. It just seemed that he was a bit sort of like slow off the and that I don't, like I said, I'm not saying he was still in his starter position as everyone else had moved, but it's that fraction of, the timings across the front line on Sunday seemed to just be a little wayward. Trent Brown moved at the right time, but he moved ever so slightly before Cole Strange did, and it just made Cole Strange look like he was slow off I don't know, but it's of no surprise to me that as soon as Shaq Mason was available, he went straight to Tom and the Bucks. Tom's no fool.
Yeah.
But again, goes back to what I say. You make a bad draft, you make a bad decision, it takes 2 or 3 years to repair it, and that's unfortunately where the Patriots are. We are still in a position where we are having to repair the team from bad choices 2-3 years ago.
And next season, newsflash, we're going to be taking a left tackle in the first round because Wynn's going to be gone. I think Trent Brown will want to. Apparently, wasn't happy about the fact that he's been given a right tackle contract, but is playing left tackle. He'll probably want to go back to right tackle. We're going to be drafting a left tackle again in the first round again.
Trent Brown's contract. Can't Trent Brown leave at the end of the year as well?
I think so. I think there might be an out there. And I like Trent Brown. I actually think Trent Brown is a good, solid, middle-of-the-road tackle. I don't think he's spectacular by any means, but for what we're paying him under market value for what he is, which is a middle-of-the-road. He's a top 20 NFL left tackle, and he's I think he's getting I'll check it there. I think he's getting like 9 million, I think, this year, which again, hey, I wouldn't turn it down either, but it's He is his cap hit is actually only 6.1, so it's a lot less. So to be fair, it's fairly cheap, and he has 2 years left according to this.
2 years left. So at least we can put him back to right tackle. But yeah, I agree. I think when it comes to the draft, we will be going for a left tackle. I don't think there's any question, shadow of doubt. It just depends, what New England's record going to be. If we're sitting in the middle pack in the first round, are we going to get a tackle? Let's see, one of the higher acclaim ones, or are we going to get one further down? That's going to be the interesting part. I mean, there's a guy in Northwestern who is the ranked number one offensive tackle in the NCAA, but he's probably going to be around about the 8th or the 9th pick or something along those lines. So we're nowhere near that currently.
I mean, again, we're 8th. We're 8th in the AFC standings. So even if we stay at 8th and don't qualify for the playoffs, you're still talking about a pick that's somewhere around 15, 16, 17, anywhere around there, depending on performance. And really, I'm not saying I hate the thing that tanking, and I'm not saying we should lose, but we could really do with moving up a few spots.
Yeah, the thing is as well, like I think I kind of coming into the season, we were so talent poor, right? That I was kind of like, and you heard me saying it at the start of the year that like I don't think we're gonna be good. I think we're gonna have 6 or 7 wins. I think I said we'll probably get about 8, maybe 9 this year, and we'll probably kind of rinse and repeat where we'll get some good talent, but we almost need. I'm not saying that we will or we should. I'm just saying we need to be in that top 10 to get that elite talent that we need. Like I just going back to your point from earlier, Nick, about Belichick and him not the GM and the coach being split.
Yeah,
we beat a team on Sunday, admittedly, that didn't have a quarterback. That if you were to look at the roster, right, it kind of slightly ignore how they've played this year, because I think Frank Reich has been a kind of dead man walking for a while. But if you look at the talent on the team, you've got Jonathan Taylor, you've got Michael Pittman Jr. on the line, that terrible line, Ryan Kelly, Quentin Nelson, Braden Smith, 3 guys that are probably in the top 5 at their position in the NFL. You've got DeForest Buckner, you've got Yannick Ngakoue and Grover Stewart on the line. You've got Shaq Leonard and you got Shaq Leonard linebacker, and then you've got Gilmore, Kenny Moore, who was an undrafted free agent by the Patriots, by the way, who cut him. And that's probably it. Look, you've a couple of other guys there as well, probably on injured reserve. But that team is much better at their top end talent. How outside of Judon and maybe Onwenu and Nick Folk, of course, how many of those guys, do we have that are better than them or even equal to them at their positions? And they're all key positions as well, apart from the guards, because I have to die on that hill.
There isn't many. I think we actually didn't really give any appreciation to Nick Folk, because he did put 15 points on the board for us. He's Mr. Automatic right now, and I'm glad that we still got Nick Folk here. But no, you're right. There isn't many players there that could probably say, but excluding Matt Judon, maybe Jonathan Jones at corner. Who else out of that Patriots team would fit into the top echelon? Who would fit into the Bills team or the Chiefs or the Eagles, or the Ravens? Who would fit into? Not many. No. Not many at all.
And like, even if you were kind of to dial it back, and I think I'm going to get super nerdy with my spreadsheets. At some point, I want to do the exercise of actually kind of looking, and it's going to be a bit objective because it's going to be my opinion, but of where would these guys really fit in the grand scheme of things across the league? I suppose, you look at the Dolphins with their 1-2 punch of Hill and Waddle. none of our guys are even close to either of them. So that means that the best our guys could be is the third best receiver on the Dolphins. You're kind of that I might have a bit of fun with that at some point, maybe in the off season, and see where we'd rank talent wise, because I think it's a talent poor roster that is being coached really well beyond its station at the moment, and it's grinding out wins, to be fair to them.
And then you look at someone like the Falcons, who are talent poor but seem to be being coached unbelievably, to the point that they're picking up wins left, right, and centre.
And they
the flip side of the coin.
Even then, though, like, you've still got Kyle Pitts and you've Drake London. I would swap any of our players for either of those. Take half the offense and give me just Kyle Pitts. But you know what I mean. Like, but I agree with you. At an overall level, their roster talent isn't good, but they still have one or two diamonds there on offense. And absolute diamonds. Drake London does look like he's the real deal, as does Kyle Pitts when he's actually used. But anyway.
Okay, well, we'll move into. Tell you what, let's move into the quarterback, shall we? Because obviously we don't have a preview of a game because we're on our bye week. So we're going to have a little bit of a deep dive into Mac Jones, because there are some glaring issues to take place. First of all, I don't think Mac Jones is a bad QB. I don't think he is. What he did in his rookie year under Josh McDaniels as his OC was actually really solid play. They done a lot of play action, and it helped Mac Jones push the ball down the field. It did work. Since Matt Patricia's come in and has been the play caller, I'm not calling him the OC because I don't think we have an OC. He is a play caller. It seems like the Patriots are regressing Mac Jones. Not Mac Jones is regressing because of Mac Jones. I think the O-line is worse than what it was last year. The play calling is drab. It is poor and not good enough from Matt Patricia. I'll give you the prime example, okay? Mac Jones through the first 3 and a bit games wasn't very good. He was throwing more picks than what he was throwing touchdowns, okay? He goes down with his ankle injury. In comes Bailey Zappi. And for that Packers game and the Browns game, he performed really, really well. Now, is that because Bailey Zappi is apparently a better quarterback than Mac Jones? Or is that because they actually dial back on some of the plays in the playbook to make it simplified for Bailey Zappi? I believe it's the latter. And I think ever since Mac Jones has come back in, they've gone back to the old system, the Karl Shanahan scheme that they put in, and it's just not working. We put up an average of over an average of 31 points between the two games between the Packers and the Browns. Since then, through all the times we played against every team where Mac Jones has been in, we're averaging around about 19.5 points a game. Am I not missing something here?
No, sorry, go on, Nick. You go there.
I was just going to say, touching back on Zappi did have a very reduced playbook to work with. But the other thing that I noticed when Zappi was in for Jones was that, like with the preseason, it was Judge that was talking to Zappi. It was Judge that was giving him the instructions. It was Judge on the calls. It seems to be, as the quarterback coach, Judge has taken Zappi under his wing and is focusing on Zappi, whereas Hoyer is experienced enough to be able to do his own thing and whatever else, and be a half player, half coach, whatever his role is. And it seems to be Jones has been left, not in limbo, but he's sort of been left to work with Patricia and work with Judge when Judge has got some. But when Zappi was in, it was a reduced playbook run by Judge, which saw a much more beneficial outlay than what Jones has been given when he's working with Patricia.
So that makes sense.
Makes sense, yeah. I think.
I don't. I mean, do you cut Patricia back and give Judge more? You know, I again, this comes back to the point. It's Bill's team. Bill knows what he's doing. You know, what is it he says? We all know our roles. We don't need job titles or whatever he kept saying to the press. You know, and well, if everyone knows their role, then you know, what's the Stone Cold saying? Know your role, shut your hole, and get on with it. You know. So I don't. It's not Mac Jones's fault that we are in this situation. I think it's very short-sighted and very unfair to lie the blame of where we are purely at Mac Jones's door. I don't think it's fair to blame it all on Patricia either. But you know, often I don't. Is Jones trying too hard? Is Jones trying to overcompensate? I don't know.
For me, I think just going back to Karl, to your point about them dialing back the offense, and I think that's what they did last year, and they did a really good job of managing Jones through the season. And I think this year they had the whole, the theory of them taking the training wheels off, because I think what really happened was Jones. Last year we beat the bad teams, and anybody with a bit about them, we lost them. We couldn't put up enough points in them, and especially when we were behind, we weren't able to do this kind of 2-yard drag to Hunter Henry or 3-yard slant to Jacoby Myers to just continuously move the ball. And that's the offense I feel like we saw with Bailey Zappi this year when he came in. It's just enough to move the ball, and it's not a coincidence that he played well against the Browns, who are poor against the pass. And then when Zappi came in against the Bears, he was poor because the Bears were like, yeah, we'll eat this up, because they're a really good pass defense. I think they're the third, or at the time they were the third best pass defense in the league. And I think what the Patriots are trying to do, I'm not saying they're doing a good job of it or it's the right thing to do. I think they're kind of going, if we want to get where we want to go, which is the Super Bowl, we have to see if Mac Jones can lead us with the, I don't want to say the long pass down the field, but at least throwing the intermediate to longer routes, passing routes, and throw them accurately and throw them with confidence and be able to read a safety coming over the middle or some disguised coverage rather than just pointing and shooting at the underneath routes. And if he can do it, great. It works, and he works, and he's going to be our quarterback for the future, because there is a bit of still trying to suss him out. Can he do it? At the moment, I would say he can't, but I also don't think he has the weapons to fully close the book on him or anything like that. I kind of feel like he's not doing well with the help that he's been given, but also he's not been given much help. So I don't, and I think you're 100% right, Nick, in what you're saying, that we shouldn't be laying the blame at Mac Jones, and I know I kind of have been, but it's a bit tongue-in-cheek. I think he's good, but is he going to get us? Are we going to sit here in a few years' time and go, he's the guy that can, even if we put enough talent around him, is he going to be good enough to make a good, solid playoff run? Or are we, if we keep the playbook dialed back, he'll be good enough to just about get us to a wild card playoff game, and then we'll pack up and we'll go home? Because that's the ceiling of him if we kind of play that reduced passing game role.
So he's the new Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
That was his ceiling. That's what NFL Network said. He was his ceiling was Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, and look what I suppose it's too premature to kind of say that the Vikings, now with all the talent around them, let's see what they do. Because Kirk Cousins is as middle of the road as you get in the NFL. He's exactly, as we're kind of saying off here at the start, he's exactly what Mac Jones is. He's a non-mobile pocket passer. He's probably, outside of Brady, the next best one in the league. I don't think I'm speaking out of turn. I think he's probably the next best one. That's just a pure pocket passer. He isn't going to move or even scramble, or doesn't really have the scrambling in him. So let's see, when you have Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, and TJ Hawkinson, and a decent line, how far can that get you? And because at the moment we haven't surrounded Mac Jones with anybody close to that talent. I don't think.
No, I think it's going to be interesting how this moves forward. We're not in a position to draft another quarterback next year. We're not. I know the core QB class for next year is quite deep, but I don't think we're not going to.
We've got too many holes to start going back, and even if you were going to say that, even if you decided that after 2 years Matt wasn't the one, you've got to give him that third year, because we've got too many holes next year that need addressing. You can't say, well, let's address the quarterback again, because you're just you're rehashing the same podcast that we've just done. It's poor draft. I just, we need to improve the quality of those around Jones to give Jones a good chance to show what he can do. Simple as,
And I think it is. I think whilst the X's and O's, Karl, I know you were big on that, and the play calling does seem to be an issue. I think our biggest issue is talent. I think if you look around the league, most teams now have that clear-cut number one. And again, our number one is a slot receiver. I'm talking about that X receiver that can just go long. You can run all the routes. A lot of the teams in the NFL have that. We don't. You have to chuck it up to Devontae Parker. You have kind of slightly gadgety, kind of do master all trades in Bourne. Thornton, we don't know what he is yet. Will he be anything? I hope so. I think there's a bit of talent there, but I don't also think that from what we've seen this year, I don't think he's done a whole lot either. I don't think
he was injured for the first. Was it for the first 5 games of the season?
I'm talking about the last few games that we've seen him. I don't think it's not like he's
since the Browns game when he had those 2 touchdowns, he hasn't done much at all. I just think he's more that could take the top off. But isn't that what Nelson Aguilar is for? I mean, is Nelson Aguilar bumping Thornton out just so Aguilar could have his final year with the Patriots, and then we'll cut him or trade him in the off season? I mean, Tyquan Thornton, for me, watching him out of Baylor, he is a speed freak. He is an absolute speed freak, and he can beat coverage. He can beat one-on-one corners. So it's not difficult for him. I just think Mac Jones right now is in a rather precarious situation because he's coming off an injury, and because he's had so many interceptions now. I think he's had eight interceptions on the season now, so he's 3 away from equaling his interception record from last year. He's scared of throwing a pick. He's scared of throwing the ball deep downfield. So that just neutralizes Tyquan Thornton and Nelson Aguilar. So he has to dump it off to Jacoby Myers. He has to dump it off to Damian Harris. He has to dump it off to Ramondre Stevenson. It's all these 5-10 short yard gains. If we were going to do that, we might as well have kept Jimmy Garoppolo.
I think Jimmy's much better than Mac Jones, and I think he will. I think he will be.
Oh my God! I'm removing you off the streak because that is just out of order. You got a 2-minute sin bin, Luke. That was I'm not having that. I am not having that at all.
Notice when we were having our QB chat before they started, nobody mentioned Jimmy Garoppolo. He was not mentioned.
No. Luke just right. I'll bring Luke back in now. Unsportsmanlike conduct. That is your first flipping flag, sunshine.
I'll get plenty more by the end of the season. Don't worry.
Oh dear, we wanted to do that for a while actually.
He's 2-time Super Bowl champion. Also led another team to a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That's what do they call him? That's an alternative fact because he was obviously the backup for both those 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah, he was.
So my counter-argument, Karl, is that he's 2-time Super Bowl champion. He led another team to Super Bowl. I mean, that's a fact. You cannot take that away from Jimmy, our Lord and Savior.
Okay, lads, we'll leave it there. Great show as always. We're now into our bye week. Let's have a nice relaxing week of just watching NFL. It's going to be fun watching everyone else implode. Hopefully Josh Allen's going to need Tommy John surgery because that's not a nice injury he may have had there with a UCL, but we'll find out sooner rather later down the line. That's the end of our show, guys. Thank you so much for watching and for tuning into Spotify. Please make sure you like the video, you subscribe to the channel where you are at it, and follow us on all our social media platforms. My name is Karl. That's Nick. That's Yellow Simbin down there, Luke, who got flagged. And we will see you again for another episode next week, as we have for our first ever New England Patriots quiz, which Nick will be hosting. I did turn around and say he has to wear a suit, but he said he's going to be at Heathrow Airport. I say bullshit to that. So, yeah. And we'll also have a preview as well of our game against the Jets. We are at Foxborough. They do, and it's usually the annual thing where the Jets come to Foxborough. They get their annual teabagging at the hands of the Patriots anyway. So my name is Karl. That's Nick. That's Luke. And we will see you again next week. Go Patriots.
See you later.